Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Three Grots in a Vox. This is our weekly podcast. Today we're talking about the Tau Empire in 10th edition. I'm here with Mark, as always, and Tony, and we have the brand new Tau Codex. Tony, take it away. This is your baby.
Well, this is exciting times. New Tau Codex. I put a preview video where I opened the big box up.
That's very shiny. That's like flashing and light and stuff as you move it around in the camera.
It really is nice. It's a beautiful. It's got a classic bit of art on the front there, new bit on the back. It's a beautiful.
I hope we get as good a treatment of that with the Blood Angels one when it finally comes out.
I really do. This is a lovely, lovely book, and it's well thought out as well. So, spoiler alert: it's a good book. Not just from a kind of competitive point of view, but it's well rounded. It's well thought out. There are a few units that are better than other units, and you're always going to get that to an extent, but generally the internal balance is pretty good. It was beautifully presented in that like display box with the cards and things, so it was a really good release. In fact, the only thing I wasn't so happy about is that it comes only with Crew, and if you want the actual Tau book before the Crew, without the Crew, you've got to wait another couple of months before you get it.
Until they get around to doing it, yeah.
But onwards and upwards.
That seems to be standard. Like that is the 10th edition way of releasing things. You get the box with the book, or you wait.
Certainly, some of them have been like that. As we're recording this, Custodies come out on Saturday. I think that's just the book.
Yeah,
but I'm not totally sure.
Although I don't know if
there is a box. I think there is a box, but I don't think you can. I don't think it comes with the book.
So as always, we're going to look at this with a point of view of learning how the new Tau Codex lets them work in 10th Ed, how to make the most of them, and potentially how to use your army to beat them, probably with a tiny bit of a Blood Angel slant for some strange reason.
We can't help but we're glorious hand-to-hand combat is kind of where our heart is at.
Yeah.
And I did actually see that they have some tools that are very good at stopping you get into close combat, which is quite interesting. So
this is an interesting book. This for that reason. So let me get on with the a quick kind of brief sort of overview then. I nicked this from the one we did a couple of years ago, whenever it was, when we looked at the last one. Because not a lot in the base overview has changed. They've still got some very scary guns. They've still got some excellent mobility, and they're not shit in melee anymore.
Oh, well,
the crew are filling that hole, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to them later, but they've got certainly one unit of pretty good melee unit troops now. Farsight is still an absolute beast. They have lost the you can no longer build the like Crisis Commander with the Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit sad. So I've got to do this because there's a spider just climbing down across the lens of the camera.
Hopefully it's not from another dimension.
It's a money spider, so I'm hoping that he brings me some luck. I could do with some. So yeah, it's an interesting book and it's got some interesting stuff. But before we go any further, we've got to address another elephant in the room.
The tiger shark?
That is the manta.
That's a manta. That's not a tiger shark.
No, that's a manta.
That's super heavy. That's their version of a Thunderhawk gunship, mate.
Well, it makes the Thunderhawk gunship look cheap. In fact, let's look at the specs.
Well,
it's only 2,100 points for the unit.
Woo! This is not in the Codex.
This is not in the Codex. This is a 4-droid unit. I put this on here just because to laugh. I mean, the fact it's 2,100 points and carries 200 Tau.
Okay.
It's just silly. But yeah, I've put this in here because we're not going to be talking about the 4-droid units today. They've got a few, with the exception of Tetras, which are like the little scout things. None of them are very good. And they really don't fit properly in with the rest of the codex and that, and you don't need them anyway. So
I mean,
they're
let's be
cool.
fair. Forge World stuff has been on the out for a few
Yeah.
years now. So
They're beautiful kits.
becoming
The
less
Supremacy armor was an absolute bastard to build, but it was a lot of fun to paint. That's their giant 1500 point battle suit thing they do.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that today. There's not really any point. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about it by talking about it.
Yeah, I put the Samantha in there just because of the laugh.
Okay.
So let's go onwards and upwards, and start with the army rule.
For the greater good.
It's pretty much unchanged from what it was in the index.
Crusty jugglers.
It's a powerful rule, but it is a little bit convoluted. If you're playing Tau, you'll end up probably having to make yourself some tokens or something, because it's all based around this idea of one unit will guide or sort of like spot for another unit.
Yep.
And the spotting unit spots, and the guided unit shoots. The guided unit, if it shoots at that target, will get a bonus to its ballistic skill, so it brings it down to ballistic skill 3, which is really powerful for Tau. It's really important for Tau. And if you've done the spotting with a unit with marker lights, it ignores cover as well.
Which is good, because cover is everywhere.
Cover is everywhere. So effectively, because cover is everywhere, by guiding a unit, you're giving it a bonus to its AP and a bonus to the ballistic skill. It's really, really powerful. And your army is built around this. You've got a unit guides, a unit shoots, a unit guides, a unit shoots. Now, I'm going to jump around a little bit because I want to talk very briefly about the Storm Surge.
Can I just clarify before we move on? Guided units can still shoot. They can just... They just
aren't guided themselves.
Yes, and they can never be guided. So it's not something you can daisy chain backwards and forwards.
No.
Yes, so that's like the idiot's guide to it, I guess, right? And I'm an idiot, so let's...
It's a lot of remembering who's guided who and what they've guided into and stuff like that is annoying. So it's worth making. The best one I've seen, someone just got a load of little cardboard tokens with a target crop there. So that unit's been guided to, and that unit's been guided to, and that unit's been guided to. And this one's done its guiding, things like that. And it just if you've got a lot in your army, remembering, because there's also a lot of cognitive load, and you've got to do things in the right order.
Yep, and
guide, so that one can shoot, then that one's going to guide that one, and that one's going to shoot, and this sort of working out the order you want to do things in is very, very important for this army. So it's not a point and click army so much as it does require a little bit of thinking.
Can I just say as well, would there be some scope in this army then to have a lot of cheap units to guide more expensive units?
Yeah, and we'll get to some of the best ones for that later on.
Okay, cool.
You kind of have to do it that way, otherwise you're wasting points on shit that isn't shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it is shooting. It's just not being guided, not shooting to its full effect.
Right, not shooting with damage. Okay, yeah, fine, whatever.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Storm Surge very quickly
shoot
because
you with a torch. Yeah. Oh, okay.
There are some issues that are thrown up by this, and the big issue that's thrown up by this is units with mixed weaponry.
Oh, this old chestnut. Yep. Okay.
Of which the Storm Surge is the biggest example of this. Now, the Storm Surge is a big, super heavy. It costs a lot of points. In fact, I'll tell you exactly how many points it costs because it's in the book.
Because of any points update that is probably going to happen at some point.
Oh, certainly, but not till the book is officially released.
Yeah.
Which it technically hasn't been yet, so we're still using the points in the book.
I don't understand why they do that.
So Storm Surge is
425
points.
Release the proper points when the book is out, so that
we'll just don't put it in the book.
Money can anyway.
So there's 425 points, and it's got a mixture of guns. Is the problem? It's got some really good anti-personnel guns, and it's got some really good anti-tank guns.
So that would mean that you'd want to split fire, right? You'd want to target different units with different guns based on their strengths and weaknesses.
But if you've guided it, then it means that the thing you guided it into, you're going to be hitting on a 3. But the thing you didn't guide into, so for the split fire, you're hitting on a 5. So whatever you do with that vehicle, your half of your shooting is going to be much worse than it should be.
Or you don't use a spotter in conjunction with
Or you don't use a spotter, but then you're hitting on 4s and you haven't got that many shots you can be full, so half your shooting is missing.
All right. So you're incentivized to use units that do not have a wide variety of capability of weapon and have got a single loadout which is specialized into going into a particular thing, essentially.
To a particular type of target, which is sad because it means things like the Storm Surge do not really see. It's a perfectly good unit, apart from it really just doesn't synergize with the army rule.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Looking at the Storm Surge, for example, here, then when you're not guided, it's worsening your ballistic skill. So, for example, the Storm Surge has those indirect smart missiles. So those smart missiles, if you shot them at a non-guided target, would actually only be hitting on 6s, because indirect fire makes you -1 to hit, which would stack with your -1 to ballistic skill from shooting a non-guided unit. So suddenly your indirect fire on the Storm Surge has become nothing. I mean, if you're only hitting on 6s, you're hitting once, right?
If you're using it in conjunction with a spotted unit, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with it. And that does hurt a couple of the sort of mixed unit. The Storm Surge is the biggest example.
Yes.
But it really does sort of like mess around with those kind of mixed targeting units a little bit.
Have we missed something? Tony, have you taken a drink from a beer this evening?
I have taken a drink from a beer. We haven't talked about it. So this is off the lip. Another Papworth Brewery one. It's a proper classic English beer, this. It's warm as well. It's not out of the fridge. So it's not warm. It's cool. It's
summertime.
But it's a proper beer, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so it's an interesting rule. It's a powerful rule, but it's one that you need to think about what you're going to do. So you don't want to be guiding things into the wrong targets or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about before we go any further are drones. Now, if you've been playing in 10th edition Tau for a little while, you'll know that drones have significantly changed from what they've been.
Sorry, could we just go back a second? Can anything spot and can anything be guided?
As long as they have the for greater good keyword. So, like, Groot typically don't have that.
Okay, but within that?
Yes.
Within that, then yes.
Okay, so every Tau is assumed to have some kind of torch somewhere, basically.
No, that's not the case. Every Tau can see things, but only Towers with marker lights can get the bonuses.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, but you'll get the +1 to hit from the ballistic.
You get the +1 to hit, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Somebody goes, look over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. So I want to talk about drones a little bit. Now, drones, if you've been playing previous editions, you'll know that they are different in 10th than they've been previously. They're no longer really a unit, and they're more of a marker to try and represent war gear on a model. There's 5 types traditionally. There's a couple of other ones that pop up, specialist ones, but they're noted on the data card of the unit that's got them, and they are just literally markers. They all do different things. Don't worry about them too much. They're not wizard anymore. They're not required. They're just war gear. They're useful.
So if I was someone who'd like been collecting and playing Tau for years and had a load of variety of different drones, all equipped to go in all sorts of different configurations and to go alongside my units, that all now means nothing.
Pretty much, yeah. You just stick it with it and say this unit's got missile drones.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's good. That is. Yep.
This is going to come up later on, so we might as well address it now, because the other big change in this is the way they're done with Fire Warrior, Crisis Suits.
Okay.
If you're one of those people that has spent an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time buying those, especially if you played in 8th edition when it was perfectly viable to run units of 20 shield drones,
yeah,
and then put them around your Riptide and make it unkillable, I hate you, and you deserve everything that's come towards you.
Yeah, all right. That's equally a fair point. Yeah.
They're tokens now. My favourite thing, though, I've highlighted on there is, because I'm clearly not the only person that suffered from that, is that quote at the bottom: the most commonly designed to close escort power battle suits, the enduringly popular shield drone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
they just now that you've got shield drones, you just get an extra wound.
Yeah. So what are they pointed well? I haven't played much against. I think I've played Tau once in 10th edition. So are they? If I wanted to add shield drones, I just add one to my whole unit's characteristics, or it's one model.
Units can take a shield drone, and then that's noted on there. It's equipment.
Yeah.
It's the same as the other type of equipment. It might say you can have a gun drone or a shield drone.
Okay.
And every model in the unit then gets +1 wound.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
If so shield drone, you get an extra wound. If you have a gun drone, you get an extra gun, basically.
Okay.
Cool. And so on and so forth. So they're quite useful. They're quite handy, but they are no longer really a thing in their own right.
They're no longer obnoxious. Okay. Cool. I like it.
I like it as well because the amount of customizability it gave your units with messing around with the drones that they had before, whereas now they're just a little extra piece of war gear tacked on.
I like the
Feels
fact
a lot easier to manage and a lot.
it's a lot less bookkeeping. But I can understand if you've got this huge horde of drones. But then at the same time, like I say, you deserve everything coming to you.
Okay, cool.
So let's get on then. And I want to talk about the detachment because that's what we're all here for, really.
Yeah.
How many detachments are there, Tony?
We have got 4 detachments. The first one
4.
being Calyon, which is the one we're used to from the index.
4 of your finest blue skin, dirty Xenos detachments.
Now, again, I want to get this out of the way really quickly. 3 out of the 4 are solid detachments, perfectly competitive, very interesting to play. And the 4th one is a joke, but you sort of understand. You'll understand when we get to it. So the first one is the Calyon, the Patient Hunter. I think this is probably the one we're not going to see, or we won't see very often. Out of the 3 main proper ones, it's probably the weakest.
Proper ones.
Its rule is quite powerful, but it doesn't come into play till the 3rd battle round.
So this is what they've been playing with index cards.
This is what they've been playing so far. So on the 3rd battle round, all of the models in your army get sustained hits 1.
Yeah.
Or if they're being spotted, they all get sustained hits 2.
Which is better than a kick in the cock, but is also complete path because how many games have you played that have been decided by the end of turn 2?
So they do, however, have a couple of other little things up there in their pockets, as it were, to mean that it's a powerful rule, but it doesn't come into play until turn 3. So it means you've got to play super cagey and try and keep as much as you can alive with the intent of hitting in the later stages. I've put all 4 of their enhancements on here because actually all 4 of their enhancements are pretty good. Although I've noticed I've just cut the bottom off of 3 Unity Devastation off.
Okay.
Oops. So they've got 4 powerful enhancements here. They've got Exemplar of the Calyon, which is only 20 points. It means that it starts to apply from the 2nd battle round instead of the 3rd to the unit.
Yep.
But only to that unit, which is still good. Yeah.
Which is still good though, depending on the unit.
Yep.
+1 to every time the bearer makes a range attack, add 1 to the hit roll, and then from the 3rd battle round onwards, add 1 to the wound roll as well. So +1 to hit and wound from turn 3.
Really good.
Again, if you've got something that's got a big hitting gun but not a lot of shots,
which in terms of Tau HQ is perfectly feasible.
Which is perfectly feasible. Solid image projection unit, 30 points. It's the most expensive one, but it means you can redeploy 3 units, and a redeploy is always very, very powerful, especially because you can put them into strategic reserves.
Yep.
Regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. And the fact that you're trying to keep your stuff alive means that keeping things in strategic reserve for a period and bringing them on later on.
Now there is a subtlety at play here that isn't readily apparent, and that subtlety is it says after both players have deployed their armies, which doesn't say at the start of the first battle round. And different series, if it says at the start of the first battle round, that's after you know who's taking the first turn. Yes. This you don't know who the first player is going to be when you do the redeployment. So something worth bearing in mind.
So you've got to be a little bit careful with it, but it is quite a powerful one. And the one I've cut off the bottom there, 3 Unity Devastation, if you remember that name from 8th edition, I think that was quite a lot. While the bearer is leading a unit, each time that unit is an observer, until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in the guided unit have lethal hits. So effectively, 3 Unity Devastation, 25 points, and it means that when you guide another unit, so say you put this on an ethereal in a unit of firewalls or something.
Yep.
It means that you can give lethal hits to another unit.
Who might already be getting sustained hits 1 or possibly sustained hits 2.
Would be getting sustained hits 1. Or no, they'll be getting sustained hits 2 if they're getting that.
Yep.
So that means that for 25 points from turn 3 onwards, you can give a unit in your army sustained hits 2 and lethal hits.
If you're still alive to be doing it.
If you're still alive to do it.
Can I say that I think that the top stratagem, the Exemplar of the Calyon, attached to some sort of character that I actually don't know this. Is there any characters that can still lead crisis suits? Yes.
Yes.
Because if they can, the crisis suits coming in from strategic reserve in turn 2 with sustain 2
Do
would probably
crisis
be...
suits have deep strike, Tony?
They do.
Does that mean that they can come in from strategic reserves through deep strike, Tony?
Yes.
Awesome.
So, I think that could be very interesting, or that's possibly one of the strongest ways to play this detachment.
So it's not the world's. Well, let me go with the last couple of things. There's 6 strats for each one of these, and I've picked out 2 that seemed a little bit more interesting for this.
Right.
The first one was a tempting trap. It's a 1 CP. 1 Tau unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. The first time you use this stratagem, you must also select 1 objective marker that is not in your opponent's zone. Until the end of the battle, this becomes your trap objective marker. Until the end of this phase, each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack that targets an enemy unit within range of your trap objective, add 1 to the wound roll. So it doesn't work until turn 3, but from turn 3, anything around the objective that you picked, you've got +1 to wound against it.
Nice.
Which is very powerful if it's, say, on the midfield objective.
Sorry, I'm not understanding. Oh, you can't use it in the first 2 battle rounds. I didn't see the restriction.
Otherwise, it's be frankly broken.
Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack against that trap, you add +1 to wound. Yep. So you could trap a different objective and get +1 to wound against it in turn 4, or you could do the same one again.
The first time you use it, you set the objective, and that objective is set for the rest of the game.
I see.
In order to benefit from it, you use a stratagem every
turn. Okay, cool though. That's still cool.
It's quite powerful if you put it on the right objective and against the right opponent.
Add +1 to wound.
+1 to wound for everything shooting against things around an objective is always going to be tasty. So yeah, cool.
Absolutely. Another one there, which I put on there more from a if you're playing against this, is photon grenades. You use it in your opponent's charge phase just after enemy units declare the charge.
Yep.
1 Tau Empire grenade, blah blah blah. The enemy unit must immediately take a battle shock test. Until the end of that phase, subtract 2 from charge rolls.
Cool.
So it's a 1 CP reactive strat.
I mean, as a Blood Angels player, not cool. That's horrible. I hate it. It should be banned.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what sort of units have grenades? Sorry. I guess
well, any of the infantry.
Yep.
Generally speaking, not crisis suits.
Not crisis suits.
Although there are exceptions.
There are exceptions to that. But it's basically your infantry.
Your infantry. Okay, well, I mean, it's good. Tau infantry don't typically survive when they get charged, so keeping them alive by preventing charges is a good thing for 1 CP.
Absolutely. And they're easy targets for a charge from pretty much anyone.
Yeah, anyone wants to get in melee.
And when you're using things, we'll talk about them later, but things like breaches that have got a lot of shooting power when you're quite close up to them.
Yes, of course they do.
Failing a charge and ended up stranded out in front of them isn't going to end well for you.
No.
So good, but you've got to survive the first 2 turns to get there, which is going to be a problem because you might have just lost the game by then.
So I think of the 3 main detachments, this is probably the weakest, but it's still not a bad detachment, and that's something you're going to see sort of going through. So now we're going to move on to what was probably the weakest of the 3 to what might be the strongest of the 3. And that is the Montar, the Killing Blow. This is new for the Codex, and this one is kind of the opposite way around. Right. During the first, second, and third battle rounds, ranged weapons equipped by the Tau Empire units from your army have lethal hits. While a unit is guided, they also have assault.
I mean, so they had this exact detachment last edition, didn't they?
I mean, this is great.
Yes, this was the opposite of Montar in 9th. Opposite of Kion in 9th.
Yeah, well, the Montar and the Kauyon have been staples in Tau lore since they appeared. Yeah,
but I mean I guess the Alpha Strike type detachment.
Yeah. So 9th they had that kind of Alpha Strike ability. So this is really powerful for your first 3 turns, and I would argue that they're the 3 turns that probably matter the most.
Yeah. if I want power to stack up, and instead of having it in the first 5 in all 5 turns of the game, if I could like take the power I'd gain over those 5 and squeeze it into 3 turns and front load it, hell yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah. I'm going to jump around it, and I'm going to jump over to the enhancements, because the top enhancement for only 10 points means that the unit that you put it on, it lasts for 4 turns.
Nice.
I mean, for only 10 points, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, lethal hits on extra turn.
Again, I've put all 4 enhancements on here because they're all 4 are pretty good. 25 points to give 2 of your units scouts. That can be quite useful if you want to just run your units straight forward.
It can be. It can always be a double-edged sword, but it can be useful.
It can, but you've got a lot of cheap units, and things like Devilfish and that are not very damaging, but they're quite durable. And a Devilfish full of breaches running forward.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about being able to use them as like easy targets if you lose the first turn, to jump forward and get charged and give your enemy a leg up into getting near you.
Maybe.
It's always a tricky thing to judge whether or not scouts are good ability or not.
I like it.
Then again, more options are always better, I suppose.
I was going to say, I guess, I jump in 2-6 there. If you are going to put that scout on 2 units, you could put it on like 2 units of the Sunforge battlesuits. Those are the battlesuits with fusion guns, and then they would move 10 inches plus their 6-inch pre-game move, meaning arguably their 12-inch meltas could be in range turn 1.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's quite a powerful one. It's not the easiest thing to use, and this is something that I quite like. It can be a relatively straightforward army if you build it that way, but it's got quite a high skill ceiling. I can see this going quite well at tournaments.
You're describing another bloody Eldar army.
Well, yeah, and I was talking to someone. So I'm not a big Tau player. I have played a bit Tau, but I was talking to
in my time,
one of my buddies the other day. He plays it all the time.
I did a bit of Tau when I was in uni, but I can control it. I never let it get out of hand.
I had a Tau army years ago. But anyway, I was chatting to him about it, and he was a bit sort of like upset about the crisis suits, and I kind of described it. This is kind of what Eldar should be.
Okay.
They're very dangerous on the output, but they're quite difficult to use to get that massive output. And they can be quite fragile if you're playing in that way. So they're a true glass cannon kind of really strategic army. You've really got to think about what you're doing, or you're going to get killed.
Okay.
And I think part of the problem with Eldar at the moment is they're too tough. There's too many units in there that can just absorb anything that comes towards them. And
they're less. They are less than they were, but yeah, okay.
They're good at everything at the moment, and that's the problem there. And these guys aren't good at everything, but they've got a couple of things that they are very good at, and if you use them right, you can be quite powerful with them. Anyway, Strategic Conqueror, Tau Empire model only, 15 points. Start the first battle round before the first turn. Select 1 objective marker on the battlefield, while a friendly Tau Empire model is within range of that objective marker, and the bearer is on the battlefield. Add 1 to the friendly model's objective control characteristic.
Cool. Why not?
I would take this as like an auto take every time I ran this army. No.
Put it on a unit of 10 breaches in a Devilfish.
Oh, screw that. How cheap is the cheapest units of Groot Hounds, Tony?
Well,
and what's their OC?
I don't think they've got any.
Oh, so when they have this, they have an OC.
They do, but I'd put it on something that's a battle line unit and give it an OC unit of 30, which is hilarious.
Why? How cheap is the cheapest unit of Groot Hounds?
Don't know. But I really wouldn't do it on Groot Hounds. The Groot Hounds are shocking. They just die immediately.
Well, they're the definition of throwaway units, but if you can throw away something that runs up...
Groot Hounds are 40 points.
40 points for what? A few bases?
For 5.
5 bases. Toughness 3.
And you can have three copies of that data sheet. So you can have 3 units of this, 120 points, and each of them should be OC 0, but with this, they're OC 1. If they run
but only around 1 objective.
Yeah, that's fine. You can choose what objective that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you could just throw them onto the. You could just, yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying, but
there is a play there.
There is. I think it's very powerful. And like I say, I love the idea of putting on objectives and sticking unit troops on it.
Yeah, I would think I would. If you've got it like you've got your objective, you've got their objective, and you've got the 3 across the middle, and then you're going to aim for the one in the middle and one off to the side, and
Yeah.
you know which 3 you're going to be aiming for, and then you know you're not going to bother with this one over here. Put it on this one over here, and then send your little Kroot hounds off over there just to annoy them and grip this one. Whereas all your actual force are on the 3 that you want to keep.
My issues with it is that Kroot hounds die to a fart in the wind. They've got absolutely no, like the first unit of scouts or whatever that fires a bolt pistol out and will wipe the unit.
120 points. I could maybe cope with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking
power
about
away from anything else. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, the fact that they get a 7-inch scout move could actually mean that you could get some points out of doing something sneaky.
I think you'd be better off using actual Kroot though.
Probably. Yeah, interesting.
Kroot also got sticky objectives, which is handy.
True.
Okay.
They're only 80 points.
Moving on.
Moving on. Anyway, I think it's a good enhancement.
I think it's a good enhancement.
Coordinated exploitation. You might notice a bit of a theme here. While the bearer is using a unit, each time that unit is an observer unit, until the end of that phase, ranged weapons equipped by the models in the guided unit have sustained X1.
As well as the lethal hits. That's pretty tasty.
So that's the exact opposite of 3 Unity Devastation.
Yep.
So 3 Unity gives you the Montar rule, and Coordinated Exploitation gives you the carry-on rule.
Nice. And we know from using such joys as Apothecaries and Bolt of Discipline and stuff that stacking sustained hits and lethal hits on things that have a lot of shots, and there are some tower units have a lot of shots, can be quite tasty.
It's very powerful. So I've only highlighted one of the strats here. That's not to say the other strats are bad, because the other strats are good. But I've highlighted this one in particular because it is absolutely broken. It might be the most broken stratagem in 40k.
Okay.
So you can use it in any phase, and you use it on a Tau Empire unit that has just been destroyed.
Okay.
And then for 1 CP, until the end of the battle, each time a Tau Empire unit from your army makes an attack that targets the enemy unit that just destroyed your unit, you re-roll hits.
Well, for 1 CP, that's crazy strong.
So traditionally, how you deal with Tau is you kill the Markalites, and then they can't do anything, right? They can't hit for shit.
Yep.
So in this case, you've got a choice. You either kill the Markalite, and then they can just put this on whatever your good unit is that killed the Markalite to make that unit then much more vulnerable. Or you don't kill the Markalite and you let it Markalite you.
It's a good thing that says Battle Tactic Stratagem, which means it can be vected by a Calidus or whatever else.
It is so broken.
I don't know if it's broken. I think it's very, very strong for 1 CP.
Well,
most
so
armies
many really cheap units that you just let run around, and the moment that one of your opponent's units that you want to get killed, like one of their good units kills something, all of a sudden everything in your army forever gets +1 to hit it.
You mean rerolls to hit it, but yes.
Either way, yeah. So.
I think it's very strong for 1 CP, but I mean, if you pay it every turn, then you only have 5 CP for the rest of the game. You've got to look at it that way as well, I suppose, right?
Well, if you play every turn, then you're getting rerolls to hit against 5 units over the course of the game.
Yeah, which is very strong for 5 CP. Yeah, I'm not arguing it's not very strong.
Yeah.
Just 1 CP on whatever their good shooting unit is, or whatever their deadliest unit is.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's
Fine.
incredible.
The fact it's Battle Tactic Stratagem and can therefore be vected and other such effects makes it a little bit more reasonable, I feel. I've got no problem with that. All right.
Right. My favourite. I haven't bothered putting any enhancements on here. They're fine. They're interesting. Okay. That's not what we're here for.
Right.
This is the battle suit detachment. And I don't think it's as strong as Montar. I think Montar's the strongest. But that doesn't mean that this is a bad one. This, I think, is still very, very strong. But you're leaning heavily into that kind of... This is what the first company one for Space Marines should have been.
Okay.
So your special rule, if you're playing the Retaliation Cadre, is each time a battlesuit model in your army makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 12, +1 to strength. If you're within 6, +1 to AP as well.
Yeah, it's deadly with those fusion blasters on those battle suits, that's for sure.
It gets better.
Nice.
Um,
There's a case to be made that you don't really want to get that close with Tau, but I suppose if you're killing anything you get near when you do it, then it's not that big a deal. You just got to pick things off the edges, as you always were, really.
yeah. Now,
I'll
what I
just
have
go
put
ploughing
on
into the middle.
is I've put all 6 of their strats, because what you're paying for with this detachment is I'm going to bring a lot of battle suits.
Okay.
And I've got some very good strats. In fact, I don't think any of them are bad. There's no strat here that you wouldn't think, oh, that's a really good strat. Highlights for me: fail-safe detonator. It costs 2 CP. It's expensive, but if you use it on a unit that has that explodes, you can either choose to change the dice for explodes to a 1 or a 6. So you can either blow it up or not blow it up. That becomes incredibly useful for things like riptides. If they're amongst your lines because they do D6 mortal wounds, then you say no. If they're amongst the enemy lines, you do D6 mortal wounds to everything around it.
Nice.
Where this gets really funny
2CP is pricey, but
is you can use it on a unit that doesn't have explodes and make a unit that doesn't normally explode.
I mean,
Only
that's-
those 2 mortals, but that's still very funny.
that's very risky for 2CP. I don't think I would ever use it for that.
I think I probably would if I really, really, really didn't want my Riptide to blow up in my lines and kill all my stuff.
No. I mean, I'm saying if a unit didn't explode, I would never use it for a unit.
Yeah,
that didn't
but if I
normally
had a couple of CP spare and I'd gotten a Space Marine captain down to his last wound or something like that, and I'm thinking, shit, you've killed off my battlesuit commander. Well, have this.
Okay, there's always an edge case.
It's there for an edge case, but the thing is that it's got that little caveat in there, which means you can use it for that edge case.
Okay.
It's not just for the other stuff. I just think that's really fun. A really fun little ability.
Yep.
Yeah, if you've got 1 crisis suit left and the opponent has a Land Raider Redeemer, you run up right next to the Land Raider Redeemer with your 1 wound crisis suit and say, "Flame me."
Because you're going to do 1 mortal wound to it.
Yeah.
Well, you're very likely to do 1 mortal wound to it.
All right.
So
Cool.
it is pretty handy for that. Shortened blade. Everybody knows how powerful this is because it's like what Inceptors can do. It means you can drop down within 3 inches of your opponent.
It's very good with their detachment rule.
Yep.
It's very good with their detachment rule. Dropping down within 3 inches.
Tidbit there for Space Marine players. If you're going to be playing Tau, you're going to be playing most things these days. There's a lot of stuff that does deep strike shenanigans. Bring some infiltrators, mate.
Infiltrators are going to be really important against this particular detachment. Torchstar Gambit means you've got move, shoot, move.
For those who don't know, infiltrators, if you don't know, then I'm shocked why you're probably watching this stuff here. But infiltrators block out all deep strikes within 12 inches of them or deploying from reserves within 12 inches of them, no matter the method and no matter how close it says you can come in. Tough. You ain't arriving within 12. Sunshine.
Yeah. Torchstar Gambit, move, shoot, move. Again, incredibly powerful with their detachment rule because it means you can go in close, get within that 12 inches or within that 6 inches.
Yep.
And then you can move 10 inches back again to get back out of charge range, potentially. That means you can be nipping in and nipping out, nipping in and nipping out, which is really, really powerful with your quite powerful suits.
And there's no limit on the move. It's a full normal move, no matter how far it can move, and it's just 1 CP. Yeah, wow. That got nuked to hell for the Eldar version of that could do it.
Yes.
And these have just got the fully powered version of it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
What else have we got? The Arrow Con protocol to give you unit sustained hits if you're shooting at something that's got more than 6 models. And if it's got 11 models, it gives you a unit sustained hits too.
On top of your blast bonus, if you're shooting at something with a blast weapon. Nice.
Grabbing heavy to field, when you get charged, you do a load of mortal wounds to whoever's charging you.
Okay.
Which again is quite powerful if someone's charging you something that doesn't have a lot of wounds left.
Yeah.
They've got some great stratagems, and I think that's really, really quite powerful. And their detachment rule is really, really great. This is the one to build if you want to go all in on crisis suits and battle suits and stuff like that. And if I was going to build a Tau army tomorrow, this is the army that I would build.
I'd imagine the first thing that attracts a lot of Tau players to the Tau army is the fact they've got battle mechs, ultimately.
And this makes your battle mechs better. This is the one that goes with Farsight, you know? And you build that kind of like super aggressive battle suit based army.
What are you thinking, John? You got a pensive face.
Yeah, no, I was trying to work out how strong Grav Inhibitor is. Like, I guess so the Battle Shock means that they potentially can't use any stratagems when they get in combat.
Yeah.
If it's a unit of 6, you must roll a d6 for each model in the enemy unit. So you'd have to roll 6 dice. So for every 6 models, potentially you take 1 mortal wound when you charge them. It's maybe not the strongest. Like 1 CP for 1 mortal wound when you charge, or maybe 2, doesn't seem that strong. But I guess if you know the opponent's going to have to use like the crisis suits are no slumps, right? When you look at them, like especially the fusion ones, they still have their 4-up invuln save, the fire ones. So, sorry, the Sunforge ones. So they're still T5 with 4 wounds a guy, 4-up invuln save. So potentially stopping your opponent using a stratagem that's going to give them +1 to wound in the case of Blood Angels, or devastating wounds in the case of Grey Knights or something like that. I think the Grav Inhibitor field for 1 CP is a pretty good anti. Hey, you're charging me. I just want to make your life a little bit more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, it just makes them pay for that, and it's got more of they have to consider that when they're doing it. If you're going to charge a unit, you have to consider the fact that they might pop this, and you might be taking a couple of mortal wounds on the way in.
So it's more to the enemy's benefit for them to tell you that this could happen, and then for you to go, "Ooh, do I want to do this?" Than for them to trap you with it and not have you think about whether or not you want to do it in the first place.
So yeah, there's a few combinations here, I guess, like the shortened blade being the big one, I think. So you bring in your unit of crisis suits within 3 inches, they get +1 to strength, they get +1 to AP. If you're using those Sunforged ones, then you've got basically strength 10 Melta with -5 at that point. And if you're targeting monsters or vehicles, you're rerolling both wounds and you're rerolling damage. So if someone is marking those guys to give them the the +1 to the ballistic skill, then you're potentially looking at like a lot of damage or a lot of hitting / wounding Melta.
Absolutely. So there's some really powerful stuff here. I think probably Montar's the more powerful detachment, but this one is still really quite cool.
And I guess you can run 27 crisis suits in this detachment still.
You can run 27 crisis suits if you really want to, and then this is battle suits, so it also affects broadsides and sides and stealth suits. Stealth suits really benefit from this.
I must admit, I haven't really looked at the broadsides. Are the broadsides still good this edition?
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not brilliant, but sorry, let me rephrase that. They're good, but they're not like especially in standout. The standout one is stealth suits. We'll get to all that later.
Okay.
Okay, so the fourth of our detachments then is the Groot hunting pack, and this is a little bit of a joke, to be honest. They've got a couple of special rules, whereas everybody else only gets one. Hunter's Instinct. Each time a Groot model from your army makes an attack, +1 to hit if the target is below its starting strength, +1 to wound as well if it's below half strength, which is a little bit of a bonus. It's nice enough. Groot models in your army have got 6-up invuln against melee and a 5-up invuln against range attacks. This is really important because Groot die to a far. They've all got toughness 3 and 6-up saves.
Okay. So this helps a bit.
And 1 wound. They die so easily. The other benefit for running the Groot detachment is it means that your Groot carnivores are battle line.
Right.
Which is great. They've got 4 relatively decent enhancements, but of course they can only go on Groot. And and they've got 1 particularly interesting stratagem in joint. They've got other stratagems as well. They're all fine, but this one was the one that jumped out at me as quite good.
Yep.
Use it on a unit of infantry or Groot hounds that was just destroyed, and you bring it back.
Yay!
Which is handy. If it's a unit of 20 Groot, bringing 20 Groot back on is quite nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And well worth the 2 CP. So that seemed relatively powerful. But to be honest, the only reason anyone's running a Groot hunting pack is that they want to run a Groot army for a laugh.
So
even if you are, you've still probably got to bring some Tau if only because you really want to trigger things like the Hunter's Instincts off, which means you need to do some damage before you get there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So we can go over the enhancements we want, but I don't think anybody's actually going to take any of these things. You'll also notice that unlike the other enhancements, these ones are really specific. The Crew Hawk Flock can go on any crew characters, but the Nomadic can only go on the Trail Shaper. The weapons can only go on the War Shaper, and the Gland can only go on a Flesh Shaper.
Okay.
So, which have struck me as quite strange, because it does mean that you can have basically it's an upgrade for that unit.
Yeah.
Rather than an enhancement for your
for
your army. And they do, unlike other enhancements, they don't have any benefit to sort of your army as a whole, apart from maybe the Trail Shaper, because having units with a 10-inch move, because all crew have got 7-inch move.
Yep.
So having a 10-inch move on your infantry is quite nice on that unit. So anyway, so that's crew. Anybody care about them enough for me to spend some more time?
No, I don't care about the...
I want to know so much more about all the crew. Go into all the detail. Absolutely, I want to know everything.
I don't want to.
I did want to ask about broadsides, actually, before, just because we were moving on past them.
Yeah.
The new codex has points in it for the broadsides.
Yeah.
And what... And the way they did this with the Necron Codex is the points in the codex became valid very, very soon afterwards, right? Just because the broadside's actually kind of interesting to me in that each guy gets 2 attacks, ballistic skill 4, but I guess when you guide them, they become ballistic skill 3. Or sorry, they get +1 to hit, and then they've got heavy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Their detachment rule of guided improves their ballistic skill, correct? Not the +1 to hit. Yeah, so that stacks with the fact it's heavy. So if you have a unit of broadsides, like 3 of them, with the heavy rail rifles, they are basically 6 las cannons hitting on 2s with AP 4.
If they didn't move, yeah.
If they didn't move. Yeah, well... Yeah, because they hit better and they have more AP?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't seem like that. You said that they weren't very good. They seem pretty good.
I didn't say they weren't very good. I said they're not very interesting.
Oh, sure, okay. I mean, but still, statistically, if you just have 3 las cannons that can sit far away down a firing lane, or 6 las cannon shots every turn, that's pretty good.
It's a powerful unit. It has some downsides. They don't have an invuln.
Yeah.
They are only toughness 6. They don't have an invuln. So toughness 6 with a 2-up save.
8 wounds.
8 wounds, but they've got no invuln. But they are relatively vulnerable, actually, to things like plasma weapons and that.
What's the armor save? 3 up?
2 up?
2 up. But
2 up. Okay.
They're not horrific. I actually kind of like the battlesuit. But
yeah, they're not bad. I didn't say they were bad, but they're 350 points for 3 models that aren't going to get a save against plasma weapons.
Yeah, and they're not really going to benefit from that battle line detachment because they're never going to want to be within 12 inches. They're never going to want to be within 6 inches. So okay, just curious, and they're not horrible though.
But I think if I was going to run them, I'd run them as independent. I wouldn't run them as a unit 3.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to get all 3 of them like beaten up in combat or something.
Sure. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
But yeah, so they're all right. And the railguns are good.
Yeah, the railguns do look nice. The railguns,
as they should be.
Yeah,
as they should be. Anyway, so they're just not interesting. That's the difference. So I have picked out some units that I think are interesting.
Ooh.
There's a lot of data sheets in this book. I'm not going to go through them all because there's too many.
That is the Tau warrior who single-handedly managed to kill the Tzeentch Lord of Change.
Yes, and I think isn't he? I don't know if it was ever made canon or not, but he's the commander unit from Dawn of War.
I think they never made him canon.
Dark Crusade.
I think they just
took his name.
Right, here's a video game. Let's just ignore it. Everything existed now because it's completely bonkers.
No, he's in the lore. They kept him. They've written him into the lore.
All right, okay. I'll take your word for it.
He's another one that's in stasis. He became a commander after the events of the Fire Warrior video game.
Mm-hmm.
He is the guy from Dawn of War.
Okay.
Which was set after that. Once he's a commander, he becomes the guy in Dawn of War.
Right.
I haven't read through this one, but certainly in the last one, you know the little blocks of lore text and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He pops up in a couple of those.
Cool.
So yeah, Okais is still alive and kicking. Anyway,
fair enough.
So, interesting data sheets. Now, I'd like to say I've not picked them out, and if I've not picked out your favourite data sheet, it doesn't mean I don't think that it's a bad data sheet. It's that it hasn't really changed, or it's not really interesting enough. A bit like the broadsides. Broadsides, they're fine. They're a good unit. They do what they're supposed to do.
On with the data sheets.
On with the data sheets. So the first one that I want to highlight here are your breaches and strikes. Now, we haven't seen strikes for a while, and I don't know yet whether we're going to.
Okay.
Breaches we've been seeing for a while because they're very powerful. It looks like the fact that they've got ballistic skill 3 wasn't a mistake. They've kept their ballistic skill 3 for no apparent reason, which means if you guide them, they're all ballistic skill 2.
Right.
Yep. Short range, though.
Sorry?
Short range, though.
Relatively short range. You've only got 10-inch range, but they've got 2 shots at strength 6, AP 1 in that short range, which is pretty good for a 120-point unit. So that, that's 10 of your fire warriors.
10
if
models.
a target unit that's in range of an objective marker, you can reroll wounds.
Cool.
And if you stay stationary, you can put your turret down. And then it's got the little support turret weapon,
Which
is
has 2 more shots of poo, really.
Yeah, it's just a couple of indirect fire shots.
Yeah. Okay.
You can also stick a couple of other drones in there if you want. So put a marker drone in there.
Yep.
Which means that if they're spotting, they can be better at spotting. You can stick a gun drone in there to get even more firepower out of the unit. They're a nice little unit.
Yeah, put a shield drone in there, make them all 2 wounds. Yeah.
Stick them in a devilfish. You've got an excellent unit for taking objectives or going on the middle for 120 points.
Excellent.
Because what you do is you put the devilfish. It's the old Fish of Fury thing, but you put your devilfish full of these guys on the objective. Devilfish takes ages to chew through because it's got an unreasonable number of wounds. It's got 13 wounds. They finally kill the devilfish, and these guys pop out.
Okay.
If you do that with the enhancement from earlier on, they all pop out and have an extra and have OC3. So you've suddenly put 30 OC on that objective.
Minus whatever dice, but yeah.
I was going to say, because normally what happens now in 10th edition is when you explode on an objective, you pop out in your battle shots, your OC 0. Would their enhancement keep them OC 1?
Due to the yes, it would. Due to the way that modifiers stack up afterwards, it would be the value would be set to 0, and then +1 takes place after that. So yes, it would still.
So that is actually very, very powerful, because that's the only way to get around that now, basically.
It's one of the only ways. And then we've got the strike teams. Now, these, I think they're a bit unfairly maligned, to be honest. All right, so the pulse rifle is not as exciting as it used to be. Rapid fire 1 shot, strength 5, AP nothing.
Yeah, that's a bit poo.
It's not the most exciting thing ever. But I think there's a special rule. It's a 100-point unit, remember. They've got a 4-up save. Their special rule is actually quite powerful. Suppression volley. After this unit is shot, select one enemy infantry unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks until the start of your next turn. When this unit is on the battlefield, that enemy unit is suppressed. When a unit is suppressed, each model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 to hit.
Cool.
That, I think, is quite powerful because you don't necessarily need to kill anything to do that. So plinking a couple of shots off of that unit of Death Company or whatever, you're not killing them, but suddenly they're all hitting on 4s and 5s.
Okay.
Is going to make a difference to that. They've still got 10 bodies. They're still OC2. They've still got a 4-up save. I think they're not bad for 100 points.
Yeah, I still think I'd rather take something that kills things, but yeah, okay.
Eventually, yeah. I think I'll probably still end up running the breaches, but I just think the strikes aren't quite as bad as people make out.
No, that's fair. 30-inch range, yeah, okay.
I was going to say, if you want a unit to stick around for a while and light things up.
Yeah, because they can just be used as a spotter. So if you use them as a spotter, you've got a spotting unit, put a marker drone in there, because then they've got marker lights as well.
Yep.
So whatever they've spotted loses its cover save, and the unit's getting +1 to hit it. And then these guys themselves can make another unit -1 to hit.
Not the same turn, because they haven't shot.
Well, you can shoot in the same turn as you can light things up.
Yeah.
You don't give up your shooting, you just can't be guided.
I thought observing prevented you from shooting.
Nope.
No.
Prevents you from being guided by something else, but it doesn't prevent you from being shooted.
So you're not expecting these guys to do some damage, but suddenly you've got a lot of utility out of that.
Yeah. Well,
and
I mean,
just on an objective.
so you can take a marker drone and a shield drone on your essential sergeant. So everybody's got 2 wounds. They only cost 100 points, and you're going to mark something every turn with them. And if there any enemy infantry come close, you're going to shoot them and give them -1 to hit. Yeah, not bad.
I think that's not bad. Mark doesn't believe this. Was googling it now. Look.
It's on the slides.
Yes, but that's like way back in the first slide. And I'd rather not mess around with the slideshow, and I can just look it up for myself and double check.
Oh,
no, he's
I
right.
There you go. Look. There it is.
Well, I'm not looking at it now because I'm looking at a different tab.
Oh,
fine. Right. Okay.
Mark's all salty.
I'm not salty. I'm just misunderstanding. Oh, you've
gone
back to this one.
The chief librarian got his bits wrong.
Okay,
yes, that's exactly what I meant. Okay.
Right, let's have a look next. So the next thing I put in here are the commanders. Now, something that people will be upset if we don't mention is the fact that, yes, the Crisis Suit Commander, the one off the front of the book, the classic original Crisis Suit Commander is Legends.
I hate when they do that.
I don't know why, but whatever. Now you've only got 2 choices of Crisis.
I love all the things that I've spent money and time building and painting and getting ready with and playing, just suddenly being gotten rid of from the game.
Did you tell me the difference between a Crisis Suit Commander and an Enforcer Commander?
I know.
There we go. And in fact, nobody ever built the normal Crisis Suit one because everyone built the Enforcer one because it just looks slightly better. It's basically the same thing, but slightly bulkier. So if you've got a Crisis Commander, just run them as an Enforcer. Nobody knows the difference anyway. Anyway, so I put both of these guys on here. The Cold Star Battlesuit, these are units that you attach to battlesuits, basically. And they both bring different buffs. So your Cold Star one means that your unit has now got a movement of 12, which is incredibly powerful in that detachment for battlesuits because it means it's even easier. Remember that will still stack with the strat that means you can move after shooting.
Yeah.
So you can move in 12, get within your 6, do all your extra damage, then move out 12, and there's very little chance of somebody catching you for a charge afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, this goes really well with the one that I was talking about, getting your 6-inch scout move, getting your 12-inch move, then getting your advance, then peppering them with the lethal hit fusions and turn 1.
Yeah. So this is quite powerful. This is also the only place where the air bursting fragmentation launcher and the cyclic ion blaster are. So if you've got a load of battlesuits with cyclic ion blasters, then tough cookie.
They don't exist anymore.
More.
Again, no one's going to care if you come up to a tournament with a bunch of cyclic ion blasters. Just tell your opponent, hey, they're the fusions.
And you just say it's a fusion blaster because again, nobody except Tau players know the difference.
True.
They all look vaguely the same. So you can Tau Commander, he's only toughness 5. He's got 6 wounds, but he's quite fast. You can put a couple of it's one of the only places that you can give multiple weapons to.
Yeah.
He's got his 4-up invuln. You can modify ignore all hits to modifiers. He's giving you a faster thing, and he gives all the guns in the unit that he's with assault.
Yeah, I think the fallback and shoot is possibly one of the strongest things about these characters because that's the thing. That's Tau's biggest weakness: getting stuck in combat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, falling back and shooting and not having to take those extra.
He's pretty powerful, and he can carry a lot of fairly good guns. The cyclic ion blaster is still very powerful. I've never been a fan of the air bursting fragmentation launcher. I know people like it because it's indirect fire, but strength 3. D6 shot. I don't think it's really going to do a lot. No. It's handy to have around if you want to clear some chaff off an objective. But for him, I think he's the sort of guy you use in a unit where you want to get him up close. So you can get fast and get close. So fusion blasters, things like that. Your other alternative is your Enforcer one. He costs 10 more points. And his ability is anybody who shoots at the unit he's leading worsens their armor penetration by 1.
I mean, there's battlesuits that'll benefit from that because they don't have the 4-up invuln anymore, right?
Absolutely. Well, not all of them got the 4-up invuln.
Only the fire ones have the 4-up invuln. So if you use this commander on any of the other battlesuits, that would be a good call.
Which is pretty powerful.
Yep, absolutely.
And of course, you can still give him lots of guns. He's still got a movement of 8. So again, he's just going to make that unit of crisis suits you put him with just that bit tougher. So you can make that unit a bit faster, or you can make that unit a bit tougher, depending on what you're trying to do with it, which is pretty good. So both of those units, I think, are very strong.
Cool.
I think they're very good for the points. Pathfinders. Now we're getting into things that I think are really interesting. Now, Pathfinders, they're 120 points, and that's quite a lot of points for not a very big unit. But they've got some really powerful abilities. So their ability, once per turn, when using for the greater good ability, so this is your observing thing, you can observe 2 units for 2 different...
That sounds so stupid. Oh, look, I can see 2 different units. Woo!
So you can observe for 2 different units, which is really, really strong. You've all got marker lights as well.
Yep.
So whatever unit you're observing, so you say you want to go and kill XYZ thing, you kill that Land Raider. Well, that means that both your hammerheads can shoot it with the buffs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not getting any cover.
Yeah, and it's getting +1 to hit.
Cool.
And that's really, really powerful. You can also give them some drones if you want, but giving them free rail rifles is also quite a nice choice. So yeah, okay, you can't, if you're guiding things, you're not getting the guided bonus yourself.
I have a question.
What?
Is there any point whatsoever giving them a marker drone? Given that they already have the marker light keyword.
I don't think there is, because I was wondering that as well, because I've already got the marker light keyword.
No, then
I'm
it
not
seems
sure what the marker drone would do.
nothing.
Okay. All right, good. I'm glad that got cleared up.
Does the second page say you can give them a marker light?
Yes, it's on the thing.
Oh, okay. I have no idea why then.
No, I don't know why either. I think it might be a misprint, or I'm just reading it wrong or something. But anyway, so you can give them iron rifles, which are space marine killers, or you can give them rail rifles, which are everything killers with damage, strength 10 and damage 3. Okay, you're only going to be hitting on a 4, and you only get 1 shot. But you can put 3 of them in the unit. It doesn't cost you anything, and that means that 1 or 2 of them will probably hit something with AP -4 and strength 10 shot.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Part 3 as well is
Still.
nice.
Which is pretty handy. So I think they're really strong for 120 points. I think you're probably going to see them quite a lot, especially if you're running a lot of things that need guiding. So if you're running one of the detachments, you're going to be using your hammerheads and broadsides and stuff like that. That's where these guys are going to be found. Which makes sense because they're scouts. And they've still got the same 4-up save that all the other ones have got, even though they're wearing lighter armor, which I think is amusing. Why not?
Fair enough. Okay, cool.
Highlight for me, stealth battle suits.
Yeah, you said why. Tell us why stealth suits are so good.
70 points for 3.
Yep.
They're toughness 4 instead of 3. They've got 2 wounds each.
Yep.
They've got stealth.
-1 to hit.
Greater than 12 inches.
They've got infiltrators, so you can put them where you want.
Yep.
Cool.
They've got forward observers, which means that if they spot something, you can re-roll hits and wounds of 1.
Oh, very cool. Oh, that's very good, actually, yeah.
They've got the battle suit support system, so they can fall back and shoot.
Nice.
Or once per battle, you can use rapid ingress for 0 CP. But you've got to come down near the stealth suits. And this is where they get really good. They're battle suits. Which means that they get all the benefits from the battle suit detachment. So if you're within 12, you're hitting with fusion blasters that are strength 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you're within 6, you've got strength 10 AP 5 fusion blasters.
So sorry, do other units have homing beacons? Is that how it works? I'm not understanding that.
So if they're in somewhere, you can use rapid ingress.
Yep.
For free with one of your units. So if they land down next to them.
Oh, right. So someone else can land within 3 of you. Yeah. So you could bring your crisis suits down 3 inches away and benefit from your detachment rule where the crisis suits get +1 strength.
Within
and
3
+1.
inches of the stealth suit unit.
Oh, right.
Not within 9 inches of any enemy units.
I'm with you.
But because it's rapid ingress, it's during the opponent's turn.
Yep. which lets you then basically get the Alpha Strike in your turn. Okay, I'm with you. Cool.
And for 0 CP, hell yeah.
That's really powerful for 75 points. And you can run that's for 3 of them, but you can run a Unit 6.
I would run 3 small units of these and use that to get the reroll 1s and reroll 1s of wounds.
If I was running the Battlesuit detachment, I would run 3 units of these every game. They would be the first thing that went into my list.
Yeah. Because even if they don't do anything except spot something that you really need to kill, like Tau have those, I forget the name of the tanks, the Hammerheads, is it with a strength 20 gun? So the strength 21 is going to really benefit from re-rolling wounds of 1, isn't it? Because it's literally going to wound everything on a 2+ just about. So these guys are going to be hugely powerful.
Yeah. These are an absolute highlight of the Codex for me. I think they're really, really powerful.
Cool.
So the next thing that I've pulled out is the Goat Kill. And I'm a little bit on the fence with this guy because I don't know if we're going to see him competitively or not. But I think in the right army and in the right scenario, he's going to be an absolute bloody menace.
Twice per battle.
Go on.
After an attack is allocated, you can change the damage characteristic to 0. That's useful.
Yep. And he's got toughness 8, and he's got 2-up save, and he's got lone operative, and he's got stealth.
And he's got smoke as well. Well,
yep.
Yeah.
What can you do with smoke as a Tau player?
Mine's on here.
But don't you already get? Oh, because the stealth
all smoke
only
allows
minus
you to do is a keyword that allows the use of the
smoke screen.
Yeah.
So you can smoke screen if you're within 12. You're not getting the -1 to hit from stealth. So then you can smoke it. I see. Okay.
If you're within 12 and you're in the Battlesuit detachment, you are then hitting with a strength 13 melter gun. But obviously they're going to be able to shoot him because his lone operative isn't going to help.
Yep.
But then you can still smoke.
And twice you could just say, no, you don't do any damage to me.
Yeah.
So when I hit you with my 2 las cannons, because that's all I've got in my army, and I get them through, you just ignore them, and then you just take incidental damage from everything else. I think this guy's very good for 170 points.
I think he's pretty good for 170 points. Yeah, he's got some... I don't know if I'd ever bother with taking the Ion Raker. It's a Space Marine killer. But I don't feel that I really need a Space Marine killer.
Excuse me.
I think I quite like the giant fusion.
You tailor your list and your war gear picks on this around what's in the rest of your army, really, and what you need, what you don't need.
I haven't left it on there, but he's got he comes with the twin tower flamers, and you can swap them out for the fusion blasters and the burst cannons. And I think I probably would, but I think he's pretty good for 170 points.
So you remove the flamer, you put on the twin fusion blaster, so you've just got
a boatload of... only got 12-inch range is the thing, and if you're within 12 inches, you're losing your...
Ultimately, the Tau Flamer will never benefit from your special WASI benefits to hit, because it doesn't roll to hit.
No.
Yeah.
And it'll never get sustained hits or lethal hits or any of that stuff, because it doesn't roll to hit.
So there's only one unit that I'd put one on, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this guy with the meltas seems like he could be pretty useful.
I think he's quite powerful. I haven't really seen one for a while, but I think that, especially again in that Battlesuit detachment.
All right, cool.
So essentially, you're talking about an army of pinpoint, kill what they want, where they want, focus fire on it, take it out, and then move on to the next thing as they go.
They're going to be expensive units, but
shoot everything, yeah.
It's not like the durability is bad.
Maybe you want to start taking, maybe not 1 but 2 units of infiltrators in your army.
I'm convinced that the Montcar's the strongest of the detachments, but
yeah,
I think that the Battlesuit one is probably the most fun to play with.
Yeah, the Battlesuit one would be very fun. Okay, cool. Let's move on.
Because you make any mistake, you're half an inch too close with your jumping in and out thing with your Battlesuits. And then that Death Company turn around and just rinse them. You get in there and fluff the rolls, and you're like...
I mean, there's a reason why Danger Close is called Danger Close.
Yeah. So it's a massive risk-reward, isn't it? You're getting in and to do the mega damage, but you're making yourself really vulnerable to do it. And I just think that's a really fun... But it's also not nearly as oppressive for your opponent as well. And some of the in some of the editions, Tau have been either completely rubbish or
Yes.
really horrible to play against.
I think that's most of the editions, really. To be
You know,
honest.
they've never quite got them right. And you know, I don't know if it's a spoiler or whatever at this point, but I think this is the closest to being a well-rounded, fun army to play with and against that I've ever seen the Tau.
Since
I
I
don't
got
think
back
it's
into
the strongest
40k
of
around
those,
6th or 7th edition, I don't think there's ever been an occasion where I've thought, oh, yay, I'm facing a Tau army. I'm really looking forward to this game.
This is fun because this is going to be massive casualties on all sides.
Okay, all right. Well,
okay, so talking of battle suits, we've got our 3. Now, I'm going to do these in a specific order because there's a reason for it.
Why did you lay them out with that massive gap in the top right?
Because there's 3 types, and I couldn't do it in thirds because you couldn't read it properly.
You have
And
like one in the and then
no.
Okay, all right, fine.
So I'll talk about these in an order. Let me get on with my order. So the first one we'll talk about is the fire knives. Now,
What's the order, Tony?
These are the ones that everyone has been going on about. These are your guys that come with... Oh, no, sorry. I'm talking a bit wrong. But it's fine. So the fire knife ones. These are going to be really interesting because their special rule, each time a unit in this... mod in this unit makes a range attack, re-roll a hit roll of 1. If that attack targets a unit that is at its starting strength, you can re-roll the hit rolls instead. Now, this is really useful because what this effectively means is that you don't need to be guided.
Okay.
So what it means is with this unit is you can drop them down, Pratonk. They can spot a unit because you can put a marker drone in there as well. And then they can shoot another unit.
Okay.
Which is for 165 points. And they've got a decent amount of firepower as well. You've got your plasma rifle shots. So you can hit 3 plasma rifles out with damage 3. You've got your missile pod, 4 shots with missile pod, damage 2, strength 7.
Mm-hmm.
And
be six,
cool.
Yeah, it would be 6 shots with missile pod, but yes, and re-rolling.
Yeah. So you can get 6 missile pod shots. You can get 3 plasma rifle shots. If you're in that other detachment, they're going to be hitting at sort of strength 8, strength 9, potentially.
With more AP as well.
Hitting on 4s and re-rolling your hit roll is a 75% hit chance, which is always good.
And you can be guiding one of your other units. So if you're going to go with that kind of mass battle suit assault kind of thing, you're going to be struggling a little bit for spotters.
Yes.
And you're going to want all your big units, whereas this one can really operate without needing a spotter, which is quite powerful. You've also got their support system means you ignore any modifiers to hit as well. So that's going to be quite useful. You're probably going to hit something. You can drop down somewhere, shoot something. I just think
they're a well thought out unit, really.
Because they've got quite good range, 18-inch range as well, if you don't want to get close.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one I want to talk about is your Sunforge ones. And these are the ones that John was talking about earlier. They're the only ones that have still got a invuln save. So they kept their shield generator.
Cool.
And these guys are carrying a couple of fusion blasters each.
I think they're very strong.
They're 160 points. They've got 2 fusion blasters each. If you're in that right detachment, they're strength 10 AP, 4 or literally 5 fusion blasters.
Yeah, they're basically the Eradicator version of, but on a more mobile platform with more wounds and invulnerable save and more OC.
Yeah, mobility has always been the problem with the Eradicators.
The special ability for these guys is re-rolling all wound rolls and damage rolls for them.
Into monsters and vehicles, yeah.
That's really, really powerful.
Yep, that's tasty.
Now, the last one is one that I think people have been overlooking. Everyone's been focusing on the Sunforge, and a few people have said the Fire Knife is quite good. I think the Star Scythe are the unsung heroes of this.
All right.
Well, the reason everyone's been saying is, what the hell, these are rubbish. And I only spotted it today while I was going through prepping for this.
All right.
So people don't like them because it's burst cannon and a flamer.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a reasonable number of shots, but they're only strength 5 and strength 4. AP nothing shots. Okay, they're the cheapest crisis suits. But this is what makes them good. First of all, their special rule.
Yeah.
If they target things that aren't monsters and vehicles, they get an extra point with AP.
Which is helpful, but I mean,
is helpful.
You can't You can't make a turd look good. But you can roll it
No,
better.
but what you can do is combine that with the detachment rule, which means that suddenly you're shooting with 4 strength. You're shooting strength 6 AP2 burst cannons and flamers.
Essentially upgrades your flamer to basically a heavy flamer on steroids, doesn't it?
Yeah, so 140 point units with AP -2 strength 5 flamers.
Within 6
burst
inches.
cannons. That's a hell of a lot of DACA.
Yeah, if
Throw
you
in
need to
one of
kill
those-
chaff, it'll kill chaff.
It will
100%.
chew through infantry quite nicely. And then you can also throw in, if we come all the way back up here, why don't you throw in for 1 CP sustained hits?
Okay, I mean, yeah, sure. But
Um,
is killing chaff something that you ever really need to worry about?
It is if you're running a battlesuit army that hasn't got any basic infantry, because you've only got 1 shot here or 2 shots there. If you've only got fusion blasters and you're trying to kill a horde of
Guardsmen,
or
it's not.
anything,
Yeah.
then you've got a real problem for chaff.
Okay.
If you're running the battlesuit army, what you don't have is screen clearing. And this
Okay.
unit is 25 points cheaper than the fire knives and things like that, and gives you an abundance of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said, I think, because you can remove the flamer and add more burst cannons, right? So,
Yeah.
could you just have everybody with 2 burst cannons that gives you 8 shots per model, 24 shots? They're
Better-
potentially strength 6.
At a better range.
24 strength
I'd do
6,
that.
AP -2 shots.
Yeah. Potentially.
Well,
For 140
also
points, it's
need to-
not a bad,
yeah.
like...
That's
It's-
pretty good on a unit that can move 10 inches a turn, or stick a cold star in there as well so they can move 12 inches a turn,
Yeah.
and move, shoot, move, and fall back and shoot.
Yeah, there could even be something to be said with just like if you're playing against infantry army, you're going to give everybody 2 flamers. You're going to drop them within 3 inches, so your flamers are going to be strength 5 AP2, and you're going to get 66 flamer shots.
And I suppose if
hits.
you've not got any use for their firepower this turn, you use them as spotters. and-
Yeah, I mean, if they're double flamers, they can just spot for
Then
other units as
your
well.
double
'cause
flamers
they-
don't even need spotters.
yeah,
There can always be spotters.
so they can always. So yeah, I don't think these guys are horrible for 140 points. I agree with you. I think they're overlooked a
I
little
suppose,
bit.
yeah, if they're double flamer, they'll never need to be guided. Yeah.
No, so that this is if you're running a battlesuit army, you've genuinely got a problem if you fight anybody. So if you start playing like that guard army that John got absolutely rinsed by,
Yeah, exactly.
Really? Did you get rinsed by a guard
Really?
army, John? What was that all about? What happened?
Well,
Um,
I actually killed most of his units. He just had 300 of them. It was
Yeah,
like the
there's-
movie 300. It was like my 10 Spartans against 300 freaking.
there's a few quite strong armies out there at the moment that are relying a lot on numbers. An AP2 is a really good number to have against things like custodes and that as well, because you're putting them on their inbound save.
Do you know what? I'm sorry, I'm distracted now. I just have a mental image of like a sole aggressor. Imagine an aggressor, but it's the 300 movie, and he's just going through like pow, pow, guardsmen going everywhere. But
You're making me
cool.
want to watch that movie again now.
It's a great film.
It
The
was a good
sequel
film.
was terrible, but the film was great.
I
comic
had the
book
joy
is
of going to see it in
fantastic as well.
IMAX when it first came out. It was absolutely gorgeous.
The comic book that it goes with, the way they managed to shot for shot some of the scenes from the comic book in the movie, and they did a fantastic job.
okay,
Anyway,
moving
so,
swiftly onwards.
yeah. I think, back to the point, I think that people have been paying too much attention to Sunforges and not paying enough attention to Starsides.
People like big strength though. Big strength
They do.
excites people.
And they
Big
cannot
strength
lie.
IAB.
But that Sunforge, if it fought against that guard army, would be nearly useless with its 2 shots.
hmm
I think I'd rather have the 8 shots.
Yeah, the best thing that the Sunforge could do against the guard army is that stratagem for auto explosions.
That'll do more damage. Anyway, so I think they're quite powerful, but there are a couple of other things I want to look at. First of all, the Croots. Now, there are 2 Croot units that I've pulled out. Yes, Croot Hounds are fine. They're just shit, but they only cost 40 points. But I'd rather generally spend 85 points and have some carnivores.
Yeah, sticky
Okay.
objectives is always nice, right?
You've got the same movement, the same toughness. You've got your scout move of 7. You've got sticky objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
you have
useful.
got a little bit of incidental melee ability.
Yep.
And a little bit of incidental shooting ability. And they're only 85 points. and that's the reason you're bringing them.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other unit that I think is worth a look is the Crutox Rampages. Now you can run them in a unit 3 or 6. They've still got 7-inch moves. They've still got 7-inch scouts. These guys have got some actual melee chops.
No, they don't. They've got no punch at all.
Okay. Yes, so 4 attacks, strength 6, AP 1, damage 2 with their normal attacks. They're not particularly expensive for this, remember. And you get 3 of them in a unit.
Well,
But also, their special rule.
Fists. Okay, so we're talking about 7 attacks a model.
Yeah. Their special rule, crude lineman breakers. Each time a unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit with engagement range, D6 for each model in the unit. On a 4-up, it takes D3. On a 4-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If one or more enemy models are destroyed as a result of this, they immediately take a battle shot. So
that's really good. That's really legitimately good. That's like the Hammerhead Orcs from last edition, right?
Yeah.
So you have a squad of 3 going in. On average, you roll like 1.5 4-ups. On average, you would roll 2. So basically, 3 guys are going to do 3 mortal wounds every time they charge.
Yeah,
statistically, that's really good.
If you've got a unit of 6 of them, then you're going to get
6 mortals on average.
3 mortal wounds every time you charge for 260 points.
And then they're, unlike Mark says, 7 attacks per model. It's good. It's really good.
I mean, they're not good attacks, but 7 of them is.
They're not bad attacks. All right, the hunting blades is. Remember, we've got lance on the hunting blades as well, by the way.
Yeah.
So why do you think they're not good attacks? I mean, they're chain swords and Croziuses essentially.
Yeah. Rampage of fists, sustain hit 1 and extra attack.
I don't think they're bad at all.
People never like running chainswords, do they? That's why they upgrade them all to power fists all the time.
True. I still don't think it's.
No, I think it's pretty good. And for an army that you're not expecting, if you're fighting Tau, to get charged.
No. I think it's nice to have, like, if I was running a Tau army, I would take 2 small units of these guys to react to close combat getting, like, me. The enemy are going to want to get my Tau units in close combat, right? So having like something like this where I can be like, right, I'm going to bog you down, maybe kill a few of your guys.
Yeah.
You're going to have to choose to fall back because I'm not, I'm going to be falling back my crisis suits. I'm not going to fall back these guys. I'm just going to leave them in combat. And
these are toughness 6 models with 5 wounds each.
I don't think they're bad at all for 130 points.
I think they're very good for 130 points.
Yeah.
I think we will see some of these around.
It's only because they're new models, people are buying them and want to build them and use them. Yeah.
Well, they come in a box. If you've got
they came in the new box, didn't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I think these are pretty good. I think they're well worth using. And the same with the carnivores. I think that they're an excellent little utility unit for 85 points. They're not beasts as well, so you can do actions and things like that with them. Okay, so that is it for thing, and that brings us to the strengths and weaknesses. Now, I pinched this slide from our old one because not much has changed from 9th edition in a lot of ways. You've still got great shooting, you've still got great mobility, you've got some excellent cheap units for objectives and trading because you've got things like recruit hounds and stuff like that. I think you've got 3 very good detachments, 2 of which are really good.
I'd say 2.
But the third one's not. You're not crippling yourself by bringing it. It's not like saying the 4th one, the recruit one. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I think you are. If you're bringing a detachment that does nothing for you in the first 2 turns of the game, I think you literally are crippling yourself by taking that.
But you say it doesn't do anything, and the detachment rule doesn't. But the enhancements and the strats are pretty good. Okay. So what you're saying is, for the first couple of turns, I've only got these enhancements and strats, and I get more powerful. Now, I do think it's the weakest of them. But I don't think it's rubbish, and I think that's quite important.
All right. Okay.
So weaknesses, they're not stuff of things. But you'll note I didn't talk about the Riptide, and it's because, to be honest, the Riptide isn't outrageously tough. It doesn't do an outrageous amount of damage, and it does cost quite a lot of points.
Okay.
Your Storm Surges, well, they've got that real problem with they don't really know what they want to be.
Yeah.
You can't put shield generators on everything anymore.
Okay.
No big old crisis bombs with shield generators. That doesn't exist anymore, and they don't have as many guns as they did. So you've lost a bit of that toughness. You're a bit more of a glass cannon now. You're more about your damage output than taking a punch. You've got a few that are not so good data sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And
Don't,
the
don't, don't we
spotting
all,
mechanic.
really?
Sorry,
Don't we all, really?
don't we all? And the spotting mechanic is a little bit annoying with the bookkeeping. But
Are hammerheads
overall-
worth taking?
Sorry?
Are hammerheads worth taking?
Yes, hammerheads are pretty strong. But again, they're not interesting, they're just pretty strong. Does that
Cool.
make sense? And what I liked about the hammerhead, actually, as we was going to talk about it, the hammerhead is, in of itself, it's got 2 gun options, and I don't think either of them are awful.
No, I mean the rail cannon gets a built-in reroll to hit and a built-in reroll to wound. It's strength 20. It is BS4 plus, but it is heavy. So I guess if it's guided by something else, then it will hit on a 2, rerolling 1s. It's probably wounding on a 2 or a 3, rerolling 1s. So or rerolling all.
Let's face it, you're moving and shooting.
So
Yeah.
it has got the one
If you're
shot.
standing still and shooting, then you're opening yourself up to being killed, just like with that Imperial Fist attachment. So you're going to be moving and shooting.
Well, yeah, most of your army certainly. It's not the Imperial Fist attachment though. The problem was that most of your army had to stay still. Whereas in this case, if you stick it somewhere with a good firing lane, it's got a range of
70. 72.
and you can guide it to a target. So as long as
Oh, you stick it somewhere with a good firing lane, and then your opponent moves everything out of its line of sight, so that it has to then move and shoot you.
Potentially, yeah.
I still think it's a solid pick. I think.
I think it's all right. The because it's not outrageously expensive either.
No, and if it targets monsters and vehicles, you get +1 to your hit roll as well. So
yeah, absolutely. So
that'll help.
You've got a good hitting model. It's 155 points, so it's not outrageously expensive. But the other thing is that don't discount completely the ion cannon option for it, because everyone always goes with the railgun. But
of course they do.
if you do want if you're not really needing that mega anti-tank punch because you've got it elsewhere in your army, the ion cannon, D6 plus 3 shots, strength 7, damage 2, or D6 plus 3, strength 8, damage 3 shots with blast it's a nice profile.
Still the dual fire options of the solid shot and the submunition.
No, it doesn't. It's lost that. But railgun's just got heavy and devastating wounds now.
Fair enough.
So the iron cannon's not bad. It's a custodian killer.
Yeah, it's a Space Marine killer as well, really.
Yeah, so if you firing on overcharge, then at Terminators or something like that, then every failed invan's a dead guy, and you've got a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
so I suspect that everyone will still take the railgun because they're going to want that big one-shot anti-tank shot.
Yeah.
But I don't think the iron cannon is bad, and the fact that there is even a room for a discussion about it means that it's a lot better than in previous editions where you just brought the
better gun.
The other gun. So it's fine. The Sky Ray is fine. It's amusing that it's got seeker missiles at strength 14.
Okay, good.
So there's some other units in there that are pretty good, but they're not exciting. They haven't really changed a bit from what they were on the index.
All right, cool.
So so that is all of the units. I think they're a pretty strong army. I think that they're potentially one of the stronger armies.
Yeah. They sound tactical, they sound mobile, they sound like they've got to jump around and make the most of things and pick their fights and pick their enemies, which is kind of good and what they should be.
They've got a high skill ceiling, which I think means that they're quite...
Yeah.
So we're like 10 months... We're like 10 months into 10th edition, so probably what's happening is Games Workshop are actually starting to hit their stride on terms of like making good balanced books.
Maybe.
So I think the books at the start of the edition are always a bit weak.
Of all the books that I've looked through, and I think I've looked through most of them, this is the best book.
Cool.
I think I would like to watch a good Eldar player play against a good Tau player with all of this stuff. And I think that would be an interesting dancing game to watch between the two of them.
I think it could be. I think this is a solid top tier army, but not a broken tier army, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something quite nice to see. That is the Tau in 10th edition. I'm sure in the comments people are going to tell me how wrong I am and how I've massively overrated the...
Nobody ever tells us that stuff. We always get it right every time.
The crisis suits with the flamers and the... what's it? I know one of our Patreons is going to be like, what are you smoking?
Yeah, well.
But yeah, so...
as a paying, supporting Patreon, you absolutely have the right to do that. Please tell us what we are smoking, we would love to hear it. We value and cherish your opinion.
Absolutely. And in case you hadn't noticed it, I did put a vomit emoji next to where I wrote trading.
Okay.
Because that's how I feel about anybody or any trading style of play.
But that's like core to the game.
No, it's become core to the game recently. And it can get in the bin, and we can go back to the olden days when trading didn't happen. And we actually tried to conserve our units because there was a point.
Okay, right.
Rather than just swapping them for your opponent's ones and trying
Tony.
to get the better end of the swap.
All right. What did you say, Tony?
Awful style of play.
Go on, John. Whatever you want to say. Say it.
No, I used to like how we used to play like Tony played. We didn't play victory points or anything. We just played last man standing. So we didn't play any of this trade. You did, when we didn't play 5 turns, we played until someone was standing, right? So I liked playing like that, but I guess that's not the way of the game anymore.
I'm at heart, I think I used to be a tournament player, but these days I'm a narrative player. And so to me, an army like Tau, we're like, no, we don't spend our units without, really good reason. We try and protect them. Or Eldar. The whole concept of Eldar trading to me is one of the most insane things. We're a dying out race. There's only a few of us left. So we're going to bring lots of cheap units so we can swap for our opponent's ones. From a fluff perspective, that's the stupidest. Oh, I hate it.
Well, yeah. I mean, with the Tyrannid swarms coming in as well, you can't really be trading with the Tyrannids, really, can you?
Unless you're playing competitive 40k, and at which point that's how you play.
Cool.
Yeah,
well, we'll leave the trading for me to discuss on
of Infinite Age and Rarity for...
All right.
The Blood Angels commander.
Old man.
Yeah.
The wind. Yeah.
He's a very naughty boy.
Get off my lawn.
Right, okay, so I'll tell you what, I also decided that I quite like a lot of the old Tau art.
Okay, good. You should do. It's something
Nice
that's quite cool.
Colourful. I missed the beige Tau, and I reckon the only reason we switched to the white Tau and all the books is it photographs better. It's easier to read from a box art perspective.
Probably.
Anyway, so onwards and upwards. Pile of Gory.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So we are starting with... John, what have you been doing?
I finished my first squad.
Finally finished it.
One squad of guys is finished.
When did you start painting these?
Probably about the start of 10th edition, maybe even before. I think I actually started in September, so they're finished now.
About 9 months ago, then.
7, 8.
Okay.
7 or 8.
Please put at least a dot of black on the end of that bolter.
No, it's varnished now. I can't even if I wanted to. But I was finishing models left, right, and center before 10th edition came out, and then 10th edition Legends half my army. So motivation disappeared for a while. It's slowly coming back.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad it's coming back for you. I'm still waiting.
Unfortunately, the red 9s on their knee pads really didn't read nearly as well as I'd hoped. So I probably won't use those Forge Road number 9s on the knee pads again. I'll just go back to like little white skulls or yellow blood drops.
The green in the eyes works really well. You've managed to do them quite nice justice, so props to you for that.
No thanks. I feel like I can paint. I'm battle ready, so they're battle ready. And I do keep running them. I do like them.
They're not quite battle ready.
But for me, I don't think my models never look good in photographs.
Yeah, I'm not talking
about
photographs.
You think it's because on the screen it's 3 times as large as the actual model is.
They're not battle ready because they don't have drilled barrels or little black dots at the end of their barrels or anything. So
I used to have a rule in our gaming group that if you didn't drill the barrel or at least put a little black dot, then the bullet couldn't come out, and every time we fired it, the gun would immediately jam.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
So guns don't work unless they've got barrels.
Makes logical sense to me. Yeah.
I mean, the heavy bolter's got an empty barrel.
Yeah, so it's the only gun in that unit that can fire.
So 1 out of 4 ain't bad. That's the Meatloaf song.
Right. Okay.
Moving swiftly onwards.
What else have you been spending your time on, John?
Star Wars Unlimited cards. I've built one deck and I've beaten one person, which is you, Tony.
It is. You did beat me.
I think me and Mark are going to have a rematch this week, live on our Star Wars Unlimited channel.
Are you playing live tomorrow, are we? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I think so.
All right.
So I'm probably going to get crushed by Mark and then go back to...
So are you going to tune in? Are you going to watch? Are you going to come in and spectate as well or something?
I'll certainly try to.
Awesome.
Cool.
I've got, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so
Tony's
that's John's.
beaten me as well.
Yeah. This is. I like the way that John's bought a folder and then not put the cards in it.
Well, this
And
was
they're
me
all-
organising them for the folder. So-
Oh, that's organised, is it? Okay.
This whole mess in front of you just upsets me. Yeah, I like your Marvel bottle as well. Right,
That's nice.
let's move on
Nice
then and see what
Marvel
Mark's been doing. What have Mark been doing? What have you been doing, Mark?
So I've not been doing any Warhammer at all since like the end of January because I decided I don't care for a while. But I did finally get around to buying the Star Wars Shatterpoint box set and the Darth Vader Fear and Dead Men box to go with it. So I've been working my way through building those and starting to base spray them, and I'm really enjoying them. They look really cool. I'm looking forward to playing some more games with them. And
I
more
can
models
vouch
of them
that
be coming soon.
Mark brought them over the other week and I got to hold them in my hands, and they are so nice that I was immediately online trying to find excuses to buy them. Not because I particularly want to play the game because I haven't got time, but just because the sculpts are so nice. They're just that little bit bigger because they're sort of, I don't think they're 54mm scale. They're sort of like 40mm scale.
So the top of a Space Marine helmet would come up to like just below Darth Vader's shoulders on that. Roughly.
So they're just a bit bigger and they hold detail beautifully, and they're lovely, lovely models. Really nice.
So what? How difficult are these guys to build? How many parts are they in?
They're fiddly. The battle droids at the back are the fiddliest little gits to try and build. They're really annoying. But mainly they're not that difficult because they're basically monopose with a couple of minor options that you can make with them in terms of this one's got an alternate helmet here and this one's got an alternate gun there. But the way that you can build them is severely restricted, but they are incredibly dynamic, really beautifully posed and sculpted anyway. So it's not that big a deal.
Cool.
They're all plastic, so they all go really, really well with polystyrene cement. Yeah, they're not a problem to build at all.
I like Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's cool. There's another Ahsoka model of her just standing there, which is Ahsoka Padawan. That one's Ahsoka Jedi No More.
Okay. So that's basically when she's a Jedi Knight. Okay.
That's when she's been kicked out of the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really want that Vader and the 3 Stormtroopers. That's what
the Vader's cool. Yeah, the Vader's very cool.
Okay, so moving on. What else have you been doing, Mark?
I've been doing some stuff with some cards as well. Yay! That's my attempt at organising my cards in these little plastic collector things on the bottom right there. I need to get another one of them, which is why there's a whole bunch of cards in that little thing in the top right there, because I need another one of those divided plastic box things to put them in. I've got enough sleeves to sleeve my entire playset with all the same sort of sleeves, which is what I've been doing, which is why I underestimated how much space I'd need, because sleeved cards take up more space than non-sleeved cards.
They do.
Yeah, go figure. And then you got a box of spares in the middle top there, which is where I've got all my spare uncommons and other stuff and things. And the top left and bottom left is my actual shiny deck box with the tournament deck I'm taking to Sanctuary Games and their 50-player tournament in 2 days' time from the time this video is being filmed.
So by the time this goes live, we'll know whether you win or not.
Yeah, or whether I, don't walk away with anything. You got to be in the top third to get like some boosters. So
Okay.
We'll see how we do.
I do love that deck box. It's so well made.
Yeah, I kind of so I thought it would be sensible to write my name and ID number for the thing on the middle of the box in the middle there. And having written it on there, I totally regret having
What's
done
the
it.
ID number for?
It's when you log into the Star Wars Unlimited website, they give you a user ID number, and then when you go and take part in any organised play and they log it with their tournament systems and whatnot, they ask for your ID number.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I figured it's sensible to like write my name on my deck box and what, but I kind of regret having done it now.
I think it looks all right.
Yeah,
It's a lovely book.
Yeah,
that's what it says on your video case, Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
No, long time since I read this.
That's the original VHS tape master for Heir to the Empire. Absolutely.
That's a good book, that is. That is a good book.
It is.
Right. Okay, rolling on then. I haven't done a lot.
Loving Star Wars Unlimited.
Carried on working on the Dante that we were doing on stream the other day.
Cool.
I'm still blocking in some colour. The purple is now finished.
Cool.
The red is finished. The green is finished, and the blue is finished. I've just started working on the white sections of it. And then I need to start building a bit more contrast back into the armour because it's a bit flat at the moment.
Mhm.
So that is Dante. He's on my desk. I've been working on him at the moment. I'm quite pleased with the way. I don't think it'll come out, but the colour on the cloak I'm quite pleased with.
Cool.
I like, when you're like, oh, I like this recipe. This blends really nicely. So that is Dante. That's my 40k that I've been playing with. The picture in the top is quite hard to see, really, but that is my new and exciting Vampire Counts army that I'm building for the old world.
Mhm.
Naturally, when a new game comes out, I choose a legacy army, but I'm making it out of a mixture of all of the skeletons and zombies and that I can find across all the ranges.
Cool.
So some of the models in it are the new beautiful Soul Blight skeletons, which again, you're not going to be able to see that well, but they're incredible models. Other ones are the end
Do
of the
they
vampire.
need to be on square bases, not round bases?
They do, but what I've actually got, I'm going to hear, is I've 3D printing movement trays that are the right 25mm square base holes,
Okay.
but the round bases fit into it.
Okay. Cool.
So that it means that if I ever did want to play Sigmar, I can.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome.
So some of them are the plastic end of the Vampire Counts models.
Yep.
And then some of them go way, way, way back. And these are the old original metal Games Workshop ones.
Oh.
And then I've got sort of like, mixing sort of Blood Bowl miniatures in there and Underworld's miniatures, basically any kind of skeletons and zombies and that you can find, just to get as much variety as I can.
Nice.
There's some like skeletons from Cursed City. Trying to get as much weirdness going on as I can and make it sing. The next picture is a rare one for me because I haven't done anything with this, but I have managed to get my hands on this, which is the original metal black coach.
Oh wow.
Well,
so I need to print a base for it because this is the version that came without a base.
Yep.
Even though there's one in that picture, it come without one. Oh, you see that? So
Awesome.
it is effectively new, although it's missing the original foam tray that went in there.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to try and build that. I've got a few others that aren't in that picture, but this is sort of where I'm at the moment with the vampires and the things as well. So at the moment, especially with GW properties and things like that, it's old world that's getting me the most excited. I love Blood Bowl. I love the specialist games. I do still play a fair bit of 40k, but it's old world that's getting me excited. The new rule book is spectacular. It's so funny. It's so well written. It's got all the jank and the fun stuff. There's a whole page of what happens if you use pigeon bombs. A whole page of pigeon bomb nonsense, which is like the pigeon might turn around because it's a homing pigeon and fly back to your own lines. And
cool.
That's for one unit in the entire game.
Are they Are they still Goblin Doom Divers?
Yes.
Awesome.
So it's just full of fun and jank, and the rules are fluffy and interesting. It's a fantastic mix of the old style, but with a few modern like twists and that to make it a little bit more comprehensible for people to get into.
Excellent.
It's a brilliant game, and I'm really, really enthused for that at the moment.
Awesome.
That's good.
If I was convinced it was going to last longer than 2 or 3 years, I might buy it.
Well, I'm using a lot of 7th and earlier edition models anyway.
That's fair.
I've also been playing with some cards.
Hey! Seeing a theme here.
Why
have we all got into Star Wars Unlimited, John?
Because it's awesome. Why else? Because it's... Some people were telling me that they're really upset about the artwork for the game. I was like, the artwork wasn't...
A couple of the Han Solo pictures are a bit dodgy. I mean, that bamboozle face in the bottom left there is particularly... yeah.
Particularly interesting.
No.
So, unlike John, my collection is beautifully organised. It's in a folder and it's in number order. If there's a missing card in there, it's because it's in my deck, or Darth Vader because it's the only card I haven't got. Apart from that one on the screen's a leader one, so it doesn't count.
Yeah. I was going to say, if anyone's watching that has the Darth Vader card, send it to Tony. It would be very appreciated.
Vader, commander of the first Legion. Yeah.
So that is the picture in the background is my folder. That is all now just about set up. It's all in order and things like that. And there's like places and stuff. And then the picture in the lower right is my deck. I'm actually going to pull it apart tonight.
Oh, yeah.
We're building a new one.
Oh, cool.
Fair enough.
I was thinking of building a red deck. A red is aggression. I haven't built any aggression decks yet, but I was thinking of doing it.
That's not to say that I think this deck is bad. I think it's really good, considering I don't have any Darth Vaders in my Darth Vader deck.
Okay.
But
so Vader Green Ramp is actually pretty tasty. It's definitely worth consideration.
Yeah, I think it's quite powerful, this deck. I genuinely think it's quite powerful. But anyway, that's irrelevant. If anybody is interested in that, we do have another channel.
We're spending a lot of time on Star Wars Unlimited, having a lot of fun playing it.
We have that's the Unlimited Power TCG channel.
Yes.
If anybody's interested in that sort of content, it's not quite the same as what we're doing here. It's not affecting what we're doing here. We're still doing this. The schedules aren't going to change. The amount we do isn't going to change. We're just doing a little bit of that on the side as well because we quite like the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't think that people would want the Grots channel clogged up with TCGs.
Very true. Yeah. That's why
if you want to watch it, we've got a different place for it. So cool. But it's still us talking Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Playing cards,
because we're all Star Wars fans.
Hyperspace Lando looks pretty cool.
Yeah, he does look cool.
That's I really do like it. It's one of my favourites.
Very nice.
Cool. Well, good luck at your event, Mark. And
Thank you. I'll play you with the deck I'm taking to that event tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
so you can get a handle and tell me whether or not you think it's any good or not.
Okay.
Fine.
Cool.
Okay, so on that note, thank you very much. What?
Thank you. What?
So do we want to mention that we didn't do any 1,000-point starter lists in this video for a real positive reason?
Yes, we decided that we're going to try and break those off so that we can spend a little bit more time on the individual lists. So they'll be coming out separately as separate videos looking at 3 different ways of getting started with the army over the next few weeks. They'll be coming out, hopefully, if we finish making them.
Yeah.
We've decided to break those off because they do get bogged down a little bit and we wanted to condense the main bit to just be about the faction rather than spending loads of time talking about armies.
And if you like those videos, make sure you tell us that you like them and we'll make more.
And then we can keep doing them. And then if the format doesn't work, we'll go back to the old way of doing it.
Yep. And if you're one of our YouTube member subscribers or a Patreon subscriber, you can tell us these things and we'll pay more attention to you.
A little bit more.
So,
a lot more.
Please remember to like and subscribe if you liked it and want to see more. Click the dislike button if you didn't like it. Try and find the fun. Don't let things get you down. And we will catch you on the next one.
Indeed.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Doodles.